a big B12 thing. I just interviewed Anthea yesterday. Um, I think you have read this book. I
I
think
have.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, she mentions you in the book, how you were so helpful to her, and you're a big mentor of hers. What are your thoughts on B12, and do you worry about your B12, and where do you get your B12?
Right. So yeah, and I read her book, and like I said, I had already given up B12 when I read the book, but now what we do is we don't just not take it. We like make sure there isn't any added because they add B12 to everything, and so it's like we get some nutritional yeast and it's organic with no B12 added because a lot of nutritional
Unfortified.
unfortified. Yeah, we
Right.
buy unfortified vitamin B12, for example. Madeline knows how to get that online. So we think it's really a good idea to just stay out of that whole thing. Not only not take B12, but try to stay away from foods that are fortified with B12 because she makes I think a really good case in there. I mean, can certainly read the book, but I think she makes a good case that this is really a substance that was invented in a Merck laboratory and or discovered as part of a bigger operation, and where they started just coming up with vitamin B8, 9, 10. Well, make B11, make it 12, B12. Okay, and they kind of do that, and then they got this whole thing that if you don't have B12, vitamin B12, then there's like this endless array of terrible things that will happen to you. And I think a lot of what's been happening in our society is that there's people are poisoned by chemicals and then they're damaged by that. But then the government narrative is that it's a B12, some kind of a deficiency. So I think we have to be careful of those things. And so so that's my feeling about B12 is it's not really uh, anything that's needed. It's weird, of course. She makes the point over and over again that there's this one vitamin B12, that's not in any vegetables or fruits. Right? It's the only one
The only one.
you have to eat meat or dairy to get it. Something like and like why is that? Why do we have this one thing that you have to eat meat? It's in and even she goes into how some of the prominent vegetarians use that as a hammer to hit people that you better have your dairy against vegans. And so I think it's been politicized quite a bit, and a lot of people still say, well, God wasn't, we weren't meant to be eating vegan because of B12. That's the reason right there that we shouldn't be doing it, which I think is an illusion. It's being used as a way to keep people sick, because I think the last thing they want is people like me and you and Madeline who never, don't go to the doctor, don't buy drugs, don't go through all these things. If we had, many more like us, then the whole system would collapse. And so they got to make sure that that doesn't happen. So the main way is fear. You make people afraid, and then they'll go along with whatever the agenda is. And I think a lot of people in the vegan movement, especially doctors and nutritionists, have been too gullible, really. I think too willing to believe whatever they've been told by the establishment. And I was raised in the media. My father owned a whole chain of newspapers, and so I learned to not trust the media just because I was in it. I could see how you can't run an article that the advertisers don't like. And who are the big advertisers? The pharmaceutical industry, the petroleum industry, the chemical industry, the fast food industry, these huge, and the bankers in the background that run everything. So it's
So
really
you got a
important for
behind the scenes of the media.